back to Alan Watt, and yes, we're going to take some calls for Alan Watt. 1-800-259-9231, 1-800-259-9231. We'll take a few calls specifically for Alan Watt coming up here in a moment. I'm sorry I didn't get the calls with Bob Chapman. We just ran out of time. Before we go back to Alan to finish up kind of with their master plan and what he thinks their current phase is, and then some of your calls, before we do that, I want to tell you, it's shipping out. I took the historic interview I did with Aaron Russo before he died, in about 10 minutes or so of interview that hadn't been seen, and then some behind-the-scenes interviews, and I put it together on a DVD because we had hundreds of requests for this. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of requests for this on DVD instead of just on the Internet. You know, we put it out on prisonplanet.tv in high quality, but folks ripped it all over the web, which we're glad about, and millions of views. So I thought, why not put it on DVD? So it is now available. This is Reflections and Warnings interview with Aaron Russo. Everybody's library should have this. And we now have 3 months of the best of interviews from this TV show / radio show that is very informative and in high quality, not just Internet. It's pretty high quality at prisonplanet.tv because we stream the show live. It's not in the same quality that the films are at prisonplanet.tv. And we have the DVD arsenal. We have the latest one out that's got Russell Means, Lindsey Williams, Edwin Vieira, Sean Kassinger, Craig Proudly, and State Sovereignty Special with a whole bunch of state reps and senators about declaring state sovereignty against the New World Order and reaffirming the 10th Amendment. And last but not least, at prisonplanet.tv, for the great members over there, we have a new 27-minute extra, an expanded exclusive extra from the Obama deception, only for prisonplanet.tv members. You can see that on screen if you're simulcasting right now and watching us. If you are a prisonplanet.tv member, it's only 15 cents a day to have a membership at prisonplanet.tv, and you get my live radio show simulcast here in the TV studio, and you get Jason Burmas 9 to Midnight. You get all of my films, my book, Paul Watson's book, a bunch of other great films, and just more and more. We're ramping things up here, and prisonplanet.tv just gets better and better. The quality just gets better and better. And if you've been a member and let your membership drop off and haven't checked out all the upgrades and changes we've made, it's just 5 years plus up and running, thousands and thousands of pieces of media, the radio show in the highest quality archives, prisonplanet.tv. Be sure and support us there by becoming a prisonplanet.tv member. And we just keep adding more and more services there in the info war to the prisonplanet.tv members. And I want to thank all of you across the world for your support. Without you, we couldn't run this operation. And plus, you can burn all the films and books and presentations that are on there to DVD and CD and give them to people. I mean, it is an arsenal of resistance in the info war. Or again, go to Infowars.com, the secure online video bookstore shopping cart, and get all the books and videos that we've produced and made and that we carry at huge discounts. And show them to your friends and your family. Feel free to make copies of all of my films. Get them out to people. Again, all available at Infowars.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. All right, going back to Alan Watt from cuttingthroughthematrix.com. Alan, before we get back briefly into the globalist master plan and the current operations and then take some calls, you have been having some problems with your 3 or 4 websites. You wisely had some mirrors of cuttingthroughthematrix.com, but now you've been having a lot of problems, and people should know that you've been under a bit of an attack. They're trying to take your registration names away, though you registered them years ago and own them. They're not letting you upload to your servers, though you've paid in advance for a year, and you're not getting any answers from Yahoo on this, are you?
Well, they rectified it the other day, suddenly, because so many people were protesting and calling them. And this went on for a week and a half. They suddenly stopped me uploading to 2 of the main sites. And no explanation was given. I talked to about 5 different people over the course of a week and a half, and they wouldn't let me talk to any of the engineers who could possibly have given me the technical problem. There was no technical problem. They simply put a lock on it. And someone had obviously, from above, given them the suggestion to do this. So it's from a high source. Now, at the same time this was happening, friends of mine, people I know in other countries, were getting in touch with them, asking if they knew me and why they were taking out domain names in my name. Now, anyone can do this across the planet if they want to. It's quite legal, you see. But they wanted to know what the connections were and so on. So, as I say, after a bombardment of listeners to Yahoo and me mentioning it on the air night after night, they suddenly fixed the problem. Couldn't tell me what it was. And I'm on unlimited disk space, so it wasn't that was the problem. They'd actually set me back from about 9.5 gigs, which I was at that present time maximum, with unlimited disk space to go. They set me back to 6.5.
Well, look, I mean, we have sophisticated hack attacks against us on record from the big ISPs. They certainly, the Pentagon's announced they're going to attack American and European media that criticizes the New World Order. They've now said on the news they're going to start killing journalists. There's famous video of the tanks driving up and killing Reuters journalists over in Iraq. Okay, let's accelerate, but thank God it's back up. Let's accelerate Alan Watt here now through their master plan, and if they're able to succeed, what they're going to set up, and then take calls.
Yes, they've published the books, in fact, from the United Nations, and a whole host of umbrella organizations under the United Nations have published their own books on the future cities. I should mention that back in the 80s, I met the man who owns the polo team that Prince Charles belongs to. And he is a big Canadian. He owns hundreds of corporations and companies across the U.S. and Canada and Europe. He has an estate in Ireland. He's a lord, and an estate in London. And he's also an amateur, although professional architect. And through a strange set of circumstances, which I didn't understand at the time, he showed me his drawings for the future cities. And one of them, this is about 1982, one of them was a domed city over a much smaller Toronto, under a sort of glass type dome. And he didn't explain why it would be a dome or anything else. And I said, well, that's a much, much smaller Toronto. He says, that the population will be that small, he says, in about 30, 40 years. No explanation given. But then a person who works for the United Nations sent me a book on the future domed cities for the perfect societies across the world. And it's right along the agenda that H.G. Wells and so on talked about. Everyone will be reared in a sort of creche dome. You won't know your parents. That's exactly what the Soviet system was supposed to be based on, but it wasn't Marxist enough. They tried it in Israel when they set up Israel, by the way, where the children would be brought up communally, wouldn't know who their parents were. You'd be trained in there up to a certain age, then you'll go to a school dome, then you'll be designated a work dome, and then you'll have your adult life dome as you work, and then you would put it into a geriatric dome, all nice and organized, like a control freak had planned your whole life for you. This is the world's structured society they want to create, but this is for the ones who will be doing most of the work, for the elite.
And Alan, I'm not trying to start fights here, because it's very destructive to get into fights with people that, are similar to our views on the New World Order. There was a big film made. They used a lot of my footage and other people's footage, and it was supposedly anti-New World Order 9/11 truth. Then their next film called for the dome cities, and a robot will run everything, and it'll be a totally controlled society, and the maker said that I would have to be put in a re-education center, but that I couldn't intellectually understand and grasp why this had to be done. No, I understand the power trip these people are on, and I kept saying to them, I heard all this 100 years ago from the eugenicist. What you're saying is right out of the Soviet model, right out of the Fabian socialist model. This is the New World Order. And they'd say, no, it's not. And I'd say, but that's a fact. Yeah. Even these drawings and diagrams aren't new. I'm not starting a fight with these filmmakers. I'm just stating a fact. And they got very, very angry and started attacking us, and then play this mental game of saying, no, this is something totally new. Alan, you know what I'm talking about, don't
Absolutely.
you? This is not totally new, is it?
Not at all. The whole 20th century was mapped out, including the wars, because people like H.G. Wells, who was a founder of the Fabian Society, who was picked up by Sir Thomas Huxley, the grandfather of the Huxley, the best friend of Charles Darwin. He picked a whole bunch of young men up. He taught them in the red tie school. They're all given red ties for revolution. They're all guaranteed to become very famous because unlimited financing would give them complete access to all media